No, it has more to do with firearms,
Oh, okay.
with
Yeah, I
weapons.
guess
And all.
when
That
70
not
people
that.
get shot, that's a pretty
Yeah,
big deal.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Um,
We probably should do something about that, I would think. The mental health
well,
assault
the
weapon
the
connection.
problem is that the NRA, which used to be a organization for that promoted gun safety,
Hmm.
um, became the lapdog of the gun manufacturers.
Yeah.
The only time I can guarantee you, now that a black man took a gun and killed two white people on air, you will now see the NRA calling for gun control, because they did that in. I'm serious. No, when
It's
Ronald
hilarious.
Reagan.
It's so
No,
fucking
let me finish. Let me finish.
hypocritical of
'Cause
them.
No, it's not. No, when Ronald Reagan was governor of California, California had open carry
Yeah.
until the Black Panther Party showed up on the steps of the state capitol with shotguns. Then suddenly the NRA got very interested in gun control
Hmm.
and backed what is now known as the Mulford Act, which banned open carry.
Right.
The Black Panthers would cop watch. They would have their rifles slung back. They were never like you see all these white motherfuckers with their weapons like ready to play Rambo and mow everybody down. No, they were slung over their shoulders, and they would stand They would stand across the street and watch the cops. And there was never any trouble between the Panthers and the cops.
Hmm.
There was never any trouble between them until, unfortunately, the party, at least in Oakland, started breaking down. And then you had Bobby Seale, then you had like Huey Newton, then you saw them getting involved in negative things affecting the community, like drugs, primarily drugs. Until then, they were there as, the cops aren't going to protect us. And there was never any issue about black men with guns until they were seen on the steps of the state capitol with their shotguns.
Hmm.
And we still to this day don't know if those weapons were loaded or not.
But if that had been a white group, then that act may never have happened.
If that had been a white group of people, we don't know, because that was during all the civil unrest, this campus unrests and everything.
Yeah.
We don't know, but I would wager to think that there's still probably if a group of white people stood on the steps of the state capitol with shotguns, probably there would be some action taken, just out of fear.
Well, see, now I'm thinking, well, will they ban Viagra? Because Ramzy will take a Viagra and chase people with his penis, and that could be considered a public health risk.
Well, it all depends on whether or not it can be. I'm not going to go there.
I know where you were going too. Are you loaded? Are you firing that weapon? Yeah.
Are you dribbling? Are you traveling? Or are you dribbling?
I was thinking how he could use his penis for a pole vault and slam dunk too. I mean, the multiple uses of a huge penis on a basketball court.
Well, then he could also embody well, guys like the idea of a perpetual hard-on, okay? And they point to the god Priapus without actually reading that myth. That was a freaking punishment for being the offspring of an illicit relationship between two gods.
Yeah.
Just like Hercules' punishment for being the bastard son of Zeus was insanity, was murderous insanity, which they always avoid in all the films. The 12 Labors of Hercules, that was about expiating the sin of murdering his family in a rage.
Mm-hmm.
So deal with it, people.
And if you see anybody walking around with a permanent hard-on, it is a punishment.
Oh God! Well, I'm going to go there. When I first got to New York City, ladies and gentlemen, this is great. I am walking up West 46, and there is this gentleman, African-American gentleman, dressed entirely in red, and he's strolling in front of me, strolling down the street, and he's got his hand in front of his crotch, and I'm not paying too much attention until we pass each other. Then I suddenly realized he was holding his dick.
Holding.
Yes, he had his hand around his penis.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, he wasn't exposing himself.
True.
But this was one of those times when I wanted to find a cop and say, "Officer, I think that man hurt himself. He's holding his dick. Never happened.
Yeah. I wonder what happens when a police officer approaches a dude with a giant bone, and he because guys are funny about, especially, the truly homophobic. They're not going to get. Plus, there's the risk of disease, and forget asking, do you have any syringes in your pocket? I mean, you got a giant pecker pointing at me. I don't want to touch you. So,
could that be considered a lethal weapon, or what?
It depends on how you use it. I once heard Ron White doing a comedy act say that he could have clubbed an animal to death with one of his hard-ons. So I suppose it's all in how you use it. But, that's one thing they tell you to do if you're ever in a fight. I've heard people say this: get naked, because the guys don't want to get near other naked guys. Unless...
Well, that's what made the Scots so fearful. It's not so much that they painted themselves blue, but they went into battle naked. Seriously, they went into battle naked.
I didn't know that. I'm writing a book about William Wallace right now.
And actually, the UN, the Geneva Conventions, outlaws. Not only do they outlaw the use of dogs as weapons of war. What do you think Richard III, Henry is talking about when he says spray havoc and set loose the dogs of war? He is talking about mastiffs.
Yeah. Dogs
that were bred to do nothing. You turn them loose and they go. They're weapons of war. They're weapons.
Right.
They're big and they chomp onto you. The Great Dane is a mastiff, bred slightly down. A Neapolitan mastiff. I've got a friend here in New York with a Neapolitan mastiff, and he lives in the studio. And that dog is huge. But also, what are banned as engines of war are the Scottish war pipes, because their only use was to instill fear into the enemy. They didn't march into battle playing, Scotland the Brave. They were used to scare people, to terrify the enemy. They didn't play music on them. They just made noises on them.
Wow. I didn't know that either. I wonder if it worked. I mean, can you imagine just...
The Irish had women at night, through the night, keen, make mournful noises that would carry down over the back to the battlefield. Because at that time, when you read, the classic Greek literature, and you read about the dreams that the warriors had about engaging in battle, and whether or not they were killed in battle, sealed their meant they would be killed during the actual battle, or this, whatever. That was because there was a complete psychic component. There is a complete psychic component to war that we no longer, as modern human beings, acknowledge. And so while we heal the physical scars, we don't acknowledge that the psychological or the soul component to war, where the soldiers engage in a psychic battle before the physical battle.
Yeah.
We don't do that. You used to have, even in the Old Testament, when you read about wars, the soldiers, the guys who went out to fight had to separate themselves. They could not immediately enter the camp. They had to stay out of the camp for a certain length of time to purify themselves, to decompress from the horrors they witnessed and inflicted.
Right. I mean, that's...
We no longer...
We have PTSD today, which is, and it's been called a million different things: shell shock, battle fatigue.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. I mean,
It is, because we don't have a mechanism in place to let our returning men and women decompress.
Right.
They come home and they get thrown into the world, and they have no time to decompress and deal with the issue, deal with what they have gone through.
Right. I remember when I was in the Air Force in Alaska and I was getting ready to get out, they had something called TAPS. It's Transition Assistant Program something system. I don't know. Yeah. And all they did, and I did have guys, leaving the Air Force around the same time that had been in battle. And all they did is basically give you classifieds to the town you were moving to. And they would help you get in touch and get an apartment and get a job and that kind of thing. And I was thinking, some of these guys are broken. Man, I mean, they've had bombs going off beside their friggin', camps, and this was right around the time of the first Gulf War.
Yeah.
And it's nothing now. It was the 3-day war, but before, when we were all getting ready to go, I was in tech school at the time. Everybody thought it was going to be a big deal. Chemical weapons. I mean, we were constantly having to stop, drop, and roll and get our.
Well, that was because Saddam Hussein used chemical weapons, as did Iran did during their war, because we supplied them.
Yeah, really.
The Reagan White House supplied them with the weapons.
Yep.
With the chemical weapons. So yeah, of course.
And I think that's still in the future. I think chemical and biological is still a major threat. I remember in college. What's that?
ISIS is apparently has been using mustard gas.
Have they? I didn't read that. I'll be damned.
There is yeah. You know, mustard gas was used in World War I, and the effects and the after effects were so horrific. That is when the world decided never to use them.
Yeah, that's right. I'm surprised Hitler's Germany didn't engage more in chemical and biological. I know they were testing a lot, but they were always on the hunt for that super weapon.
They probably. Well, truth be told, if you want to get disgustingly technical about it, odds are the gas chambers in the camps were their testing grounds.
That was part of it, yeah, but they also had a team of doctors, actually a nationwide conglomerate that would test on children, and the Jews would be, they would do inject with biological agents.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. The people, the human beings that were used as guinea pigs were those that were considered a subset of humanity, much as the United States used African Americans and Native Americans as subsets of humanity for their tests.
Yeah.
During Vietnam, the government tested Agent Orange on reservations.
We have a lot to be ashamed of in our national past. But it also went along with the culture of the time, too. That's one thing people forget.
And that's what people today don't understand. We take a look at it's Bronze Age, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, if you take a look at what is set down in the Old Testament, you understand that it is geared for that time, and if you are somebody that still adheres to, what was set down and right and proper and necessary for the survival of a group, then there is something wrong with you. You have not evolved. The thing about this is one of the better things about being Jewish is the fact that the law is always being debated, challenged, and mediated for the times.
Yeah.
I have my own issues about certain things, particularly what's called the Eruv, which if you're in New York City or any place where there is a large Orthodox community, and you see these little red pieces of cloth nailed to poles or something, what that does is that it expands what is considered the home. So on the Sabbath, an Orthodox wife can take food to her husband who is praying at the synagogue. She does not get the day off.
I see.
Her day just keeps on going. She gets no Sabbath rest.
Wow. So the sexism continues on. I remember in the Old Testament, it says in there, the woman of the church must remain quiet.
That is Christianity. We're talking Judaism.
Right.
See, what they is never taught to you is Deborah, who was a judge, who went to the General Barak and said, "Hey, this is what's going to happen. I've been told this, but I'm not. But you're going to be the one to carry out the plan for me. I will. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, Barak is Hebrew. I don't know what it means in Arabic, but in Hebrew it means lightning.
Lightning?
No, lightning.
Okay, gotcha.
It's an omnipotent. It sounds like Barak.
Yeah.
Listen to the thunderclap, lightning clap. Then you have Judith, who was later considered, she's a murderess. No, she was the only person in this town of Hebrews, Judeans, willing to go and put her life on the line to save because the men were too fucking scared